According to the 2020 National Electrical Code, commonly referred to as the NEC, all 15 amp and 20 amp branch circuits installed in dwelling units must be arc fault circuit interrupter, otherwise known as AFCI, protected. This requirement encompasses all outlets and other devices connected to the circuit. The code provides a few exceptions to this rule. Firstly, circuits that supply fire alarms and emergency lighting are excluded. Secondly, circuits that power listed smoke detectors are also exempt. Thirdly, circuits feeding listed carbon monoxide detectors are not required to have AFCI protection. Fourthly, circuits supplying listed fire pumps are another exception. Fifthly, circuits utilized for emergency power systems are exempt from this requirement. Finally, circuits powering listed heat trace cables are not subject to AFCI protection. Considering a specific scenario involving a gas fireplace within a master suite that necessitates a dedicated 15 amp circuit for its igniter and blower fan, the question arises whether this circuit requires AFCI protection. Given that the dedicated circuit for the gas fireplace is a 15 amp circuit and is installed in a dwelling unit, specifically the master suite, it falls under the NEC requirement for AFCI protection. This holds true irrespective of whether the circuit serves any other outlets. The integration of the junction box within the fireplace unit itself does not negate the necessity for AFCI protection. The primary purpose of AFCI protection is to detect and interrupt arc faults, which are unintentional electrical discharges that can occur in wiring or electrical devices. These arc faults can generate significant heat and are a common cause of electrical fires. The NEC mandates AFCI protection in dwelling units to enhance electrical safety and minimize the risk of fire. In the context of the gas fireplace, the 15 amp circuit powering the igniter and blower fan is susceptible to arc faults, just like any other electrical circuit. Therefore, to comply with the NEC and ensure safety, AFCI protection is essential. The AFCI device, typically a circuit breaker installed in the electrical panel, monitors the electrical current for characteristics indicative of arc faults. When an arc fault is detected, the AFCI breaker quickly trips, interrupting the circuit and preventing the arc fault from escalating into a fire. When installing or modifying electrical circuits, it is crucial to adhere to the NEC and any local electrical codes. Consulting with a qualified electrician is always recommended to ensure that the installation is performed safely and in compliance with all applicable regulations. They can assess the specific requirements of the installation, select the appropriate AFCI protection, and perform the installation correctly. Failure to comply with AFCI requirements can have serious consequences, including increased risk of electrical fires, potential for property damage, and possible legal ramifications. Therefore, it is essential to prioritize electrical safety and ensure that all electrical installations are performed by qualified professionals and in accordance with the applicable codes. In summary, for a gas fireplace in a master suite that requires a dedicated 15 amp circuit for its igniter and blower fan, AFCI protection is indeed required. This requirement stems from the NEC mandate for AFCI protection on all 15 amp and 20 amp branch circuits installed in dwelling units, with only a few specific exceptions that do not apply in this scenario. The presence of a junction box within the fireplace unit does not exempt the circuit from AFCI protection. The purpose of AFCI protection is to detect and interrupt arc faults, which are a significant cause of electrical fires. By installing AFCI protection, the risk of fire is reduced and compliance with the NEC is ensured. It is always recommended to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that electrical installations are performed safely and in accordance with all applicable codes. Remember to always prioritize electrical safety and comply with the NEC and any local electrical codes when working with electrical circuits. Arc fault circuit interrupters are designed to protect against fires caused by arc faults. An arc fault is an unintentional electrical discharge between two or more conductors. These faults can occur due to damaged or deteriorated wiring, loose connections, or faulty appliances. When an arc fault occurs, it can generate high temperatures that can ignite nearby combustible materials, leading to a fire. AFCI breakers are designed to detect the unique characteristics of arc faults, such as erratic current flow and high frequency noise. When an AFCI breaker detects an arc fault, it quickly trips, interrupting the flow of electricity and preventing a fire from starting. There are two main types of AFCI breakers: branch or combination AFCI breakers and outlet AFCI breakers. Branch or combination AFCI breakers provide protection for the entire branch circuit, including the wiring and any outlets or devices connected to it. Outlet AFCI breakers, on the other hand, only provide protection for the outlet where they are installed. The NEC requires AFCI protection for most 15 amp and 20 amp branch circuits that supply dwelling units. This requirement includes circuits that supply lighting, receptacles, and appliances. There are some exceptions to the AFCI requirement, such as circuits that supply fire alarm, smoke detectors, and carbon monoxide detectors. However, these exceptions are limited and should be carefully reviewed to ensure compliance. When installing AFCI breakers, it is important to follow the manufacturer's instructions and to ensure that the breakers are properly sized for the circuit. It is also important to test the AFCI breakers regularly to ensure that they are functioning properly. To test an AFCI breaker, simply press the test button on the breaker. If the breaker trips, it is working properly. If the breaker does not trip, it should be replaced immediately. AFCI protection is an important safety feature that can help to prevent electrical fires. By installing AFCI breakers in dwelling units, the risk of fire can be significantly reduced. It is important to understand the AFCI requirements of the NEC and to ensure that all electrical installations are performed in accordance with these requirements. In addition to the NEC requirements, some local jurisdictions may have additional AFCI requirements. It is important to check with the local authorities to determine if there are any additional requirements in your area. AFCI technology is constantly evolving, and new types of AFCI breakers are being developed all the time. It is important to stay up to date on the latest AFCI technology and to ensure that you are using the most effective type of AFCI breaker for your application. AFCI protection is not a substitute for proper wiring practices. It is still important to follow all applicable codes and standards when installing electrical wiring. AFCI protection is simply an additional layer of protection that can help to prevent electrical fires. If you have any questions about AFCI protection, you should consult with a qualified electrician. They can help you to understand the AFCI requirements of the NEC and to choose the right type of AFCI breaker for your application. They can also install the AFCI breakers properly and test them to ensure that they are functioning correctly. AFCI protection is an important investment in electrical safety. By installing AFCI breakers in your home, you can help to protect your family and your property from the risk of electrical fires. Furthermore, consider the specific context of Arizona. While the NEC provides a baseline for electrical safety, local jurisdictions may have amendments or additional requirements. It's always prudent to consult with local electrical inspectors or a licensed electrician familiar with Arizona's specific electrical codes to ensure full compliance. This proactive step can prevent potential issues during inspections and ensure the safety of the installation. Remember, electrical codes are designed to protect people and property from hazards. Adhering to these codes, including the AFCI requirements, is not just a matter of compliance, it's a responsibility to ensure a safe electrical environment. The 2020 NEC Article 210.12 specifies the requirements for arc fault circuit interrupter protection. It's essential to understand the specific wording and intent of this article to ensure proper application of AFCI technology. The article outlines where AFCI protection is required in dwelling units, and it's crucial to review the section carefully. Furthermore, consider the potential for nuisance tripping of AFCI breakers. While AFCI breakers are designed to detect and interrupt arc faults, they can sometimes trip due to other electrical events such as motor starting or electronic noise. If you experience frequent nuisance tripping of an AFCI breaker, it's important to investigate the cause and take steps to mitigate the issue. This may involve replacing the AFCI breaker with a different type or addressing the underlying electrical problem. When selecting AFCI breakers, it's important to choose a reputable brand and a model that is specifically designed for the application. There are different types of AFCI breakers available, and some are better suited for certain applications than others. Consult with a qualified electrician to determine the best type of AFCI breaker for your needs. Also, remember that AFCI breakers have a limited lifespan. Over time, the electronic components inside the breaker can degrade, which can affect its performance. It's recommended to replace AFCI breakers every 10 to 15 years, or sooner if they show signs of malfunction. When replacing AFCI breakers, be sure to use the same type and rating as the original breaker. Finally, be aware that AFCI protection is not a panacea. While it can significantly reduce the risk of electrical fires, it's not a substitute for good electrical safety practices. Always follow safe wiring practices, avoid overloading circuits, and have your electrical system inspected regularly by a qualified electrician. Also, consider that while the gas fireplace itself is the primary load on the circuit, other factors can influence the overall electrical safety of the installation. For example, the type of wiring used, the quality of the connections, and the presence of any other electrical devices on the circuit can all affect the risk of arc faults. Therefore, it's important to take a holistic approach to electrical safety and address any potential hazards. The National Fire Protection Association, or NFPA, offers a wealth of information and resources on electrical safety. You can visit the NFPA website to learn more about AFCI technology, electrical codes, and other important safety topics. Additionally, consider the impact of AFCI protection on older homes. While AFCI protection is required in new construction and renovations, it may not be feasible or practical to install AFCI breakers in older homes with outdated wiring. In these cases, it's important to take other steps to improve electrical safety, such as replacing old wiring, installing ground fault circuit interrupters, or GFCIs in bathrooms and kitchens, and having the electrical system inspected regularly. The cost of AFCI breakers can vary depending on the brand, type, and rating. However, the cost is typically relatively low compared to the potential cost of an electrical fire. Therefore, it's a worthwhile investment to install AFCI breakers in your home. Finally, remember that electrical safety is a shared responsibility. Everyone in the household should be aware of the potential hazards of electricity and should take steps to prevent electrical accidents. This includes avoiding overloading circuits, keeping electrical cords in good condition, and reporting any electrical problems to a qualified electrician. By working together, we can create a safer electrical environment for ourselves and our families. One additional point to consider is the proper installation of the AFCI breaker itself. It's crucial to ensure that the breaker is correctly wired into the electrical panel and that all connections are tight and secure. Loose connections can create heat and increase the risk of arc faults. Therefore, it's always best to have a qualified electrician install AFCI breakers. Final note on troubleshooting AFCI breakers. If an AFCI breaker trips frequently, it's important to determine the cause of the tripping before simply resetting the breaker. Repeatedly resetting a breaker without addressing the underlying problem can be dangerous and can damage the electrical system. Consult with a qualified electrician to diagnose and repair the problem.